Welcome back to The Secret Solve. This is the program where I look at the secret book by Byron and trying to figure out what the authors and artists were working on back in 1982. Today's episode is going to be about page 136 and page 137 in the book The Secret. We are talking about Tupperware wolves. Where are the Tupperware wolves? Well, Tupperware wolves were probably Brownie, Wise, and Earl Tupper. The history of Tupperware. Where does that lead us when it comes to the secret? Well, I'm going to start off at the end of the story today with Brownie Wise. Brownie May Humphrey, professionally known as Brownie Wise, was a pioneer American saleswoman largely responsible for success of the home products company Tupperware through her development of the party plan system of marketing. You can throw a party and find out are the last words of the story about the Tupperware wolves, because they were talking about Brownie Wise, who developed the party plan system. So she was born in Beaufort, Georgia, and she passed away and died in Kissimmee, Florida. Well, we didn't know she was going to die in 1992 in Kissimmee, Florida, because the book was written in 82. But we do know that she was a big part of the Tupperware. So she was a sales rep for Stanley Home Products and was divorced with a son to support. She found Tupperware to be a product with broad appeal. And in 1950, she moved to Florida and created a social networking marketing system through dealers and sellers that quickly sold Tupperware. This caught the attention of Earl Tupper, Tupperware's inventor, who invited her to be vice president of Tupperware Home Parties in 1951. She insisted that he market his products exclusively through party plans. Tupperware Home Parties Inc. from Kissimmee, Florida, had the freedom to implement her marketing strategies. Her methods were extremely successful and tapped into thousands of women and placed them into careers. She became the first woman to appear on the cover of Business Week magazine. Wise invented much of the corporate culture of Tupperware and the party planning systems. One of the chief ones being trips to Florida to the annual Jubilee at the company's sales quarters for motivational meetings. She created idioms and rituals such as a pilgrimage on the specialty design well in the Tupperware grounds for sellers to cast their wishes. Brownie wings and and costume graduation ceremonies, extravagant shows. Anyway, and so Wise attempted to form her own party plan cosmetics company, Cinderella, but was unsuccessful. And she did that after she had a falling out with Tupper. Her relationship with her was volatile, and their difference became irreconcilable after Wise's success turned her into a celebrity. So in '58, Earl Tupper forced old Brownie out. So there you go, the history of Tupperware. Company's Brownie Wise. But let's look some more at Earl Tupper. So Earl Tupper, he was born on a farm in Berlin, New Hampshire. Then they moved to Massachusetts, where I think Earl Tupper lived in Leominster. He invented a number of different things. He had no success early on and found himself working at landscape and nursery business, but that failed and went into bankruptcy. He then worked for the DuPont company, and we talked about DuPont's history. And after founding the corporate company, Tupperware Plastics Company in '38, In '48, he had the Tupperware bowls, and then they moved from Everett, Michigan to uh, Orlando, I believe. Yeah. So the corporate headquarters was moved from Massachusetts to Orlando, Florida. So he then um, sold Tupperware Company for 16 million to Rexall, uh, and I think he may have done that. Uh, I'm not sure what year he sold that, but shortly after he divorced his wife, gave up U.S. citizenship, and bought an island just off of Costa Rica. So in 1958, I think he sold this to Rexall, um, and he moved to Costa Rica, and he divorced his wife. And so that's kind of interesting. So I don't know, Rexall Corporation. If it was actually Tupperware would have been owned by Rexall probably in the 1982. Rexall was a company was based in Boston. Oh, that helps. Yeah. Oh, here they talk about a steamliner, steam-powered 482 Mohawk locomotive. Hey, hey, John Michaels, there's your train. It's the 482 Mohawk. I looked a while for a 982 train, but I never found that wheel position alignment ever. Well, anyway, Louis Liggett, by the way, another Louis. How many Louis are there truly in the investigation? Oh, then we can talk about Justin Whitlock Dart, Walgreens, formerly of the Walgreens drugstore chain, took control of the Boston-based United Drug Company. Well, this is just going to drag us more into talking about Boston when I think we need to be talking about Orlando. We need to be talking about Orlando, Florida, because all of this seems to be about Florida. Well, so we're talking about the Tupperware wolves. Why don't we wrap that up first, DuPont? In this image, it shows the parties of Tupperware wolves proud of the long Minnesota nights. Well, I don't know if that is correctly what we need to do, but if you like the long Minnesota nights, you can go on this fabulous little tour of Steve Hall and Southbound 76. Well, Southbound 76 runs from Cleveland to Philadelphia, and the song is by Steve Hall and Southbound 76. Um, the song goes a little bit like the. All right, I gotta get it playing so I can tell you what the lyrics are. All right, Minnesota Nights and Northern Lights keep running through my mind. Sometimes at night when I can't sleep. All right, so I think that's enough of that song. It's in. I think that's what they're referring to because that's when the werewolves are out or at night. And so Minnesota Nights and Northern Lights is a song by Steve Hall. Steve Hall was born in, I think, Brainerd, Iowa, and I think he ended up actually recently passed away in Brainerd, Iowa. He performed on, back in the 80s, he performed on General Jackson's Showboat in Nashville, Tennessee. And so if you like that little, picking up the Minnesota Nights and Northern Lights as meaning more than just um, more than anything else. His band was Southbound 76. Later on, he developed a character called Shotgun Red, and this Shotgun Red character was popular in 1983. But that's after the Secret. But so there's that. So what else do we have? Oh, Roy Wood. So I found Roy Wood by looking at the mustard jar, and I don't know what this got me to look at Roy Wood, but if you take a picture of uh, Roy Wood, he kind of looks like a werewolf. He looks a lot like a werewolf. Um, but he was started a number of bands, including ELO and Wizard and the Move. I think that Roy Wood probably isn't what the mustard jar is about, but who knows? The dishwasher, because Tupperware often goes in the dishwasher and it mentions dishwasher in here, um, could get you to the Maytag company. Uh, Maytag was one of the main manufacturers of dishwashers. In the 70s, they became the dishwasher, the countertop standardized dishwasher, I think is what they're talking about here, because that fits the time frame of the Tupperware bowl. And so, you could be looking at, Maytag or, that kind of thing, or maybe it's just not even important. But if you like Maytag, Maytag was originally started um, in uh, by Frederick Maytag. And his son Elmer Henry Maytag, and a couple of other people. And it's an Iowa company from around Des Moines, Iowa. So I don't know, Maytag, Holland. So they're saying that the Tupperware werewolves originate in Holland, the boredom capital of the world. Well, I don't know if this just meant the Holland Tunnel, because Holland and bored. But you see, the reason I broke into this is because these creatures do not crack or shatter at extreme temperatures. Boars of your acquaintance from desert or permafrost region are probably Tupperware wolves. And tunnels are usually dark, right? So I don't know if you like saying Holland in here and then adding the word boar next to it, and it takes you to the Holland Tunnel. I'm not terribly upset about that, because the Holland Tunnel is in a werewolf story, okay, about bored. Um, Tunnels are bored, obviously. So, or it could just be about William Boring, who invented or who invented and did some stuff. Okay, Interstate 76. I already mentioned that. Interstate Southbound 76 was the band of Steve Hall, and that ran from basically Akron, which is close to Cleveland, to Philadelphia. So if you like Southbound 76, we talked about Brownie Wise, so she's the main focus here. The word Delft was mentioned in here, and the only thing I got out of Delft was that Delft is a popular tourist destination in the Netherlands, famous for its historical connection with the reign of the House of Orange Nassau and its blue pottery. Well, you got to like that, and you also have this orange, Florida oranges. If you like that, pretty legal. We talked about DuPont, talked about Rexall. Yves Saint Laurent. So early on, we talked about werewolves of China and the ready-to-wear wolves of modern shopping centers. Well, ready-to-wear clothing, it was popularized by Yves Saint Laurent. And so Yves Saint Laurent was born in 36 in Oran. We talked about oranges. Algeria. And I think the main point that the reason they would mention him as being a werewolf, um, he became the head designer at the House of Dior, Christian Dior, and so he went to the military for 20 days before the stress of hazing by fellow soldiers led him to being admitted to a military hospital, where he had received the news that he got fired from Christian Dior. This made it worse, and he was transferred to another military hospital and subjected to electroshock therapy. Saint Laurent himself traced the origin of both his mental problems and his drug addiction to the time in the hospital. Okay, well, he eventually had problems with cocaine, and he would be seen at Studio 54, partying it up in the 80s. I mean, he lived past the 80s. I mean, he made it through. So he was basically haute couture. But I wonder if the reason they just said the werewolves of ready to wear was to just tell you that those people that are in Canada looking at the possible solve being in the St. Lawrence Seaway, this would help you with that. This would help you with the solve in Montreal in the St. Lawrence Seaway because you have the ready to wear wolf, if you will, here. Now, don't go to the Wolves of Wall Street because that movie hadn't came out yet. But the Werewolves of London had came out in 1935, and it was a horror film directed by Stuart Walker and starred Henry Hull as the titular werewolf. Warren Oland and a few other people were in this movie. Henry Watterson Hull was a character actor, perhaps known for playing in the Werewolves of London. He was born in Louisville, Kentucky, folks. Henry Hull the werewolf in the 1935 Werewolf of London was born in Louisville, Kentucky. He is named for his godfather, Pulitzer Prize winning Louisville journalist Henry Watterson. So he was a drama critic in Louisville and became a press agent. And then he moved to New York. He attended DeWitt. So this guy had a stage career, and he was in stage career with John Barrymore. Impressive. He appeared in 74 films between 17 and 66. Well, we talked about Rudy Valentino being in the silent films. This guy outlasted the silent film era. He was in the movie Colorado, High Sierra, Wagon Train, The Restless Gun. So he did a lot of Western work, if you will. He appeared in Bonanza twice. So he married Juliette Van Wyck Fremont from 1913 until 71. She was the daughter of Civil War General and explorer John C. Fremont and Jessie Ann Benton. Wow, this is pretty impressive. I mean, John C. Fremont. John C. Fremont made it all the way to California. And John C. Fremont has a lot of California history. He died in Cornwall. Cornwall, another Cornwall. Thank you so much. Maybe we just need to go to the Corn Palace, dig it up. That would be Cornwall. This is the fourth Cornwall or Cornwallis that we have ran into. He was in Cody, Wyoming, and Helena. So this guy's kind of a Western kind of guy, but it was in the Werewolf movie, and I think that's how you get to this guy who was born in Louisville. Well, I'm liking my Fort Knox solve even better. I'm liking Fort Knox very well now that I found another Louisville connection, because to me, Fort Knox is close enough to Louisville, so that anything that refers to Louisville, I can. It's just like all the stuff that refers to Akron, Ohio, like Goodyear Rubber Company, which we were introduced to earlier. A couple of people that were from Akron. Anything at Akron just points me to Cleveland because it's 50 miles. So anything that has to do with Louisville to me could encompass easily the area around Fort Knox. And the same is true for anything around Orlando, and the Walt Disney connection, and now the Tupperware connection to Florida. But if we're talking about Brownie Wise, should we be more talking about Kissimmee, Florida? Oh, Kissimmee, Florida. Just, I don't know, but the evil necromancers, which was the story before, would be about kissing the neck, right? And then now we've got Brownie Wise in the next story about Tupperware wolves, and she's from Kissimmee, Florida. Maybe we've just now nailed down the Florida location to Kissimmee. Maybe they are actually trying to help us in the back of the book by giving us some, Rudy Valentino, the Latin lover, and then they are calling this the necromancers. Well, you get a hickey on your necky, right, from Kissy Kissy, and now we're looking at Mrs. Brownie May Humphrey from Kissimmee, Florida. Could it be that simple? Could it be just that simple? That all the back of the book material points you directly to the city you need to be in? And it does it through a series of stories, maybe one or two or three at a time. And then it repeats that over and over again in the back of the book with people that are actors, and then people that are in politics, and then people that are in industry and business. That's right. They do kind of break it down to these different subjects. So maybe under each of these subject areas, they're just repeating the theme with different people. Some people from business. And as we move into the next section of the book, where we start talking about the left-wing simps and the right-wing trobs, we're going to get probably back into the political people and where they take us. And so I think this is how the book was written. I think this is how the book is decoded. I think if you keep working on this, if you look at Henry Hull, and earlier, just a few chapters earlier, we had this idea of this giant. And one of the biggest P.T. Barnum fun things that was started out as an early hoax was one that started with the Cardiff Giant by George Hull. And now we have Henry Watterson Hull being introduced. So one guy was a con artist, and now we have Henry Hull, which is an actor, and maybe we're going to run into another Hull later on that's a politician. It's just, by the way, Hull created the role of Jeter Lester in the long-running play Tobacco Road. Let's see. We talked about American Tobacco and the Dukes back here when we were looking at perhaps the Mira Chimera being good old, maybe the Mira Chimera was Mrs. Duke herself, and the alibi elf was the tobacco, not the alibi elf, excuse me, the filthy hobbit. The filthy hobbit being the cigarette guy, right? And so here's another cigarette guy by the name of Henry Hull, who played in The Werewolf of London in 1935. Well, the disguise is coming off. In 1956, Hull toured in a one-man show doing readings from the works of Mark Twain. Hull had met Twain in Louisville when visiting Henry Watterson, his dad. Anyway, it just all comes together eventually. It all comes together. All right, well, I got one more werewolf to visit, and that's the song Werewolves of London, which was basically the song by American song singer Warren Zevon. And this was basically a song based upon the Werewolves of London film, and it was a joke song. So Zevon's friend Jackson Brown saw the lyrics and Jackson. Oh, that's right, Jackson Avenue. Saw the lyrics and thought Werewolves of London had potential and began performing the song during his own live concerts. T-Bone Burnett. Oh, God, that puts you at Burnett's Mound. Oh, I'm not liking this because I got a different location. So T-Bone Burnett also performed the song on the first leg of Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder Revue in 1975. The song included in Hollywood cinema. Linda Lovelace was in The Excitable Boys. Yeah, Linda Lovelace. Look her up. She's a quality. She could be a necromancer. All right, so Warren Zevon, he was basically born in Chicago. Where else? The son of Beverly Hills Cope, Simmons. Oh, God, Simmons! Warren Zevon is the son of Beverly Simmons. And in the first actual story in the book, we met Richard Simmons, who I thought was the guy that waited tables and became the sweat sylph. Simmons. Richard Simmons is the sweat soul. He's the sweat soul. No doubt about it. And and so now we've got another Simmons here. So Beverly Simmons, and that helps you with the Beverly Hills Simmons, Beverly Simmons, Beverly Hills Simmons, Beverly Hills, Beverly Cope Simmons, and Beverly Hills location of Richard Simmons, um, Santa Monica Boulevard studio. Oh, no, surely not. Okay, so Zevon worked for the Cohen crime family in Chicago. And he was a LDS member. Oh, thank you very much, Jesus. Thank you. You've introduced me to another Mormon. Thank you. Thank you, Writers of the Secret. You've even given me more information to support my Utah solve right here. So Warren's mother was from the Church of the LDS, and they moved to Fresno, California. You mentioned directly in the book the Werewolves of London. I look up the Werewolves of London. It takes me to Beverly Simmons. We already met Richard Simmons. His father was a Jewish immigrant from Ukraine. Oh, Lord. Can you introduce me to another Ukrainian Jewish person? Please, Byron Price. Introduce me to another one. So by getting that confirmation, I know that he must have been talking about Warren William Zevon, whose father's name was actually Zivolosky. So, all right. I just, every time I find something. Oh, by the way, Zevon spent time in the session. He wrote several songs for his White Whale label mates. So White Whale Records was an American independent record label founded in 1965 in L.A. It's probably best known as the record label for the Turtles and a handful of other one-hit wonder bands. Well, the White Whale is Moby Dick, by the way, and Moby Dick might be somewhere involved here. And then we mentioned the soundtrack of Midnight Cowboy. Oh, Lord, you can get going on the Midnight. Oh, Midnight Cowboy. Duh. Why? Oh, I'm hitting myself in the head. The Werewolves. Midnight. Oh, geez. Well, I'm not gonna go on to talk about the Everly brothers that this guy toured with, because they're from Knoxville, Tennessee, Fort Knox. Why do you keep doing this to me? Why do you keep doing this to me? Oh, maybe the Don Fawn is Isaac Donald Everly, and we should have found Donald Everly earlier. We were talking about the Don Fawns. Well, anyway, oh geez, why do you keep doing this to me? Why do you keep doing this to me? Byron Price. Many of the top acts were influenced by the Everly Brothers, including the Beatles, the Beach Boys, and Simon and Garfunkel. We keep circling back to things that Byron Price, the Beach Boys, Simon and Garfunkel, Don Fawn. All right. Well, anyway, Don. Why would we even go circle over to the Everly Brothers? Because if we do go to the Everly Brothers, we eventually find out that Don Everly was born in Brownie, Kentucky. And we met Brownie Weiss earlier. We met Brownie Weiss, who was the Tupperware sales party planner lady. And now we're finding that the Werewolves late guy, Don Everly, was born in Brownie, Kentucky. And Phil was born in Chicago, Illinois. Oh, actor James Best, which was born Jewel Guy. Oh, the litany of the jewels starts right there. Was also from Muhlenberg County. Okay, well, I like James Best. I mean, he's been in so many things. He's been in so many things, but okay. So the Everly brothers eventually circle back to Shenandoah, Iowa, and Waterloo, Iowa, because that's where they spent most of their childhood. And we had another connection potentially to Iowa in the story, um, but I don't know. You get into these stories and you start finding these connections, and before you know it, you're probably not even close to what the authors and the people had in mind. But I can succinctly tell you that the authors had in mind when they say you can throw a party and find out that they're talking about Brownie Weiss because she was the party planner for Tupperware. And that part about Florida, I think, is rock solid. It at least gets you to Florida. Some of these other connections with Dawn Everly get you back to Chicago and Brownie, Kentucky. Uh, so at some point, coincidence is coincidence. But Knoxville, Fort Knox. I think we're going to be moving into some more Fort Knox stuff here. So I'm not too scared of it because I think it's coming. All right, folks, that's it for the Tupperware Wolves. We will check in later with another episode of The Secret Solve.